Hi guys, it's Benny from TRX Space Station. How's everyone doing? And welcome to this video in which I'm going to do an overview of some of the Wii exclusive platform games. And specifically I'm going to be looking at 2D platform games, so we're not going to talk about Mario Galaxy and things like that. One of the things that I think that Wii did very well was getting people interested again in old school style platformers. These are types of games that I grew up with, and I'm sure many of you guys did too. You know, going back to the 16-bit era with the Sega Mega Drive and the SNES, these are games that a lot of us feel very fondly about. And the Wii was really good at actually producing high-quality platform games again. And I've picked up some really good ones over the years that I think it would be great to talk about today. This is by no means an exclusive list of Wii platformers. There are lots of games that haven't made it into my collection because they're either expensive or rare or simply slipped through the net. Particularly notable ones would be A Shadow's Tale or Klonoa. Those are games that I've got my eye on though, and I will pick up someday, we just haven't got round to it yet. But let's take a look at the games I've got to show. The first one is Kirby's Epic Yarn, and this isn't the only game on Nintendo systems that focuses on a kind of world made out of material. This is on the more cutesy side of the spectrum, I will agree, but the graphic style is really charming, and that's kind of where the game's appeal lies. The whole world looks like it's made out of sewing or wool or craft materials, and that gives it a very beautiful, very unique look, and it's kind of the first game that I've seen that's looks like it's made out of material. This unique approach is what really draws me into this game. I'm a big fan of Kirby's games, and there are a couple of them on the Nintendo Wii, but this one has a different aesthetic to those games. Everything is sewn together. You attack people by pulling stitches loose or pulling off buttons. There are cute things like opening zips to change the levels, and the whole feel of the game is just that it's contained in a beautiful cottony, woolly, sewn up type thing. I suppose that once you've got past that charm, you want to know, is the gameplay challenging and is there a lot of depth here? I would say that it's interesting and it's intriguing, but it's also pretty easy, so it's not one of the more hardcore or challenging platformers. Some of the boss fights may give you a little bit of a head scratch while you're trying to get used to how to overcome them, and they are quite varied, but for the most part the gameplay is relaxing, not particularly challenging, but entertaining enough that you will carry on playing, and there is enough going on in terms of level progression and different worlds and different environments that it will keep you pretty interested. There are some quite nice mechanics here as well. Kirby turns into different things like a train and different sort of vehicles that help you progress through the levels, and that works really well and is very enjoyable. So you can probably find this one for quite cheap. I think I got it for £15 or something like that, and it's well worth checking out if you're a fan of 2D platformers, and particularly ones that look unique, because this really has its own unique feel to it. Next up is Wario Land: The Shake Dimension, and I really love Wario games. I was a huge fan of the old ones back in the days of the Game Boy. Super Mario Land 3, wasn't it, essentially? Loved those games. I love playing as somebody who's not Mario or Luigi, and kind of Wario has his own evil element to it. He's really sold in this game as just being a greedy guy who's after treasure, and I like that. Why do we always want to play as the good guy? Wario controls differently to Mario. He's stockier, he's got a barge attack that Mario doesn't usually have, and he can pick enemies up and chuck them because of his stocky size. And one thing you'll notice is this game really is a very beautiful looking game. The graphics style looks almost like that hand-drawn sort of art style. It's all really beautiful, and it's first party Nintendo quality as you'd expect. The game features a lot of Wiimote waggling, which I don't mind. It's not used in too annoying a way in this game. It kind of works. You gotta waggle your Wiimote to shake sacks of gold and things like that. But the levels have a good mechanic to them, so you progress through the level to get to the end, to get to the kind of like a treasure thing at the end. Once you activate the alarm system, you then have to get back through the level to the beginning in a set time, and this adds a really nice challenge and dynamic to the levels that not many platform games have. It's kind of nice to have that, adrenaline pumping, I've got to rush and get through to the end of the level, and that's a really nice dynamic. The difficulty level is a little bit harder in this one. You're not just going to fly through the levels, there's a little bit of puzzling elements there. You've got to think about the perfect way to progress, you've got to time your jumps carefully, you've got to swing between ropes and avoid spikes and stuff. and I'd say it's a pretty engaging game and one that I've really been quite impressed with. You can find this one knocking around in second-hand shops and CEXs and things for pretty cheap as well, so another one to keep an eye out for. Now we're coming on to one of my faves. This was a birthday present from my mum a few years ago. I'd had my eye on it for ages. This is Donkey Kong Country Returns. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Donkey Kong franchise, you know, great games going back to the SNES days, etc. And this is like the series has been revived. It's been modernised and brought forward to the modern generation, and this is one of the best platform games you're going to find on the system. I suppose the thing that makes this appeal to me the most, that makes it stand out the most, is the fact that the difficulty level goes back to those old school, quite hardcore games. You are no way going to fly through this. It's not like those cutesy other platform games you might find on Nintendo systems. It's difficult and it's challenging and you will fail. But that's part of the game's appeal. It's like you'll get a certain way to a checkpoint and then you'll keep recurrently failing it, but you just want to get a little bit further. And it has that old school feeling of having to buy yourself lives in order to progress. You're going to need a lot of challenges and you're going to need a lot of attempts in order to get through the levels, but it never feels tedious, it just feels exciting. The difficulty level is perfect here. So if you're looking for one that's a challenge rather than one that's cutesy like Kirby, this is one to go for. The levels are superbly varied as well. There are lots of great kind of edge of your seat type levels where you're say in a runaway cart jumping between different train tracks, or toppling temple ruins and you've got to bounce across, or perfectly timing barrel shots and things. And all of that variety, it just builds together to make an exhilarating and very challenging game that's really worth the money. There's a lot of content in here. Each level has not only got collectible bananas, but there's multiple other things you can get to collect in terms of getting letters and other collectibles. So you may find that you can scrape your way through the level, but actually completing the level fully and getting all the collectibles is a completely different challenge. So the game's got a lot of replayability value in there as well. Graphically, it's a beautiful game. It doesn't look dated. It looks to me like one of the better graphical games on the Wii. And it's got all the things you'd expect from a Donkey Kong game, really. Playing as Donkey Kong, and if you get enough, if you get to the barrels, you can get Diddy Kong as well, who helps you with extra mechanics and a sort of jetpack type thing. There's multiple different attacks, and it does use the Wiimote a bit. Again, it's not one that's over the top with the Wiimote, it's just one that has Wiimote action there. Not all the time though, and it works, it complements the whole thing well, it doesn't destroy the fun. So probably one of my favourite Wii platformers. It's really, really good. Next up, sticking with first party stuff, it's New Super Mario Bros. In this lovely red box. I love games that have different looking boxes, it makes them stand out. This is a barrel of laughs. You know, again, it's another modern Mario game, and I haven't played that many 2D Mario games. I've not played many of the ones on the DS and things, so for me it was really great to get back to the 2D Mario. And the fun thing about this is the fact that it's 4-player, so you can grab a few other friends and play it together, and that is hilarious because you're constantly... Yes, there's a bit of cooperation, but more often than not you're stealing coins off each other, shafting each other, bouncing on each other's heads, and causing all sorts of havoc. It's a very nice and, again, a challenging one. It's not one that you're going to just walk through, and that's what I really like about it. There's some pretty dastardly levels in terms of dodging spikes, dodging fireballs, and all that kind of thing. I find it quite hard to get used to the controls. It's a little bit slippery in terms of getting Mario to go where you want, but maybe that's just me, and it just takes a little bit of getting used to. It's got some unique Mario power-ups in this one. You've got Penguin Mario, Ice Mario, Propeller Mario, and obviously the standard ones firing out fireballs. And they use the Wiimote waggling pretty well. You've got to shake your Wiimote to do certain attacks. And it's just really exhilarating. And again, it's got a lot of longevity to it. There's a very large number of worlds in this game, and you will be playing for a long while. I've still yet to complete this one, but I've got pretty far in it. But I just love getting a few guys together whenever we're hanging out and playing this, and it's always really fun. The Mario and first-party platform games seem to be a bit collectible nowadays, so you might have to keep your eye out on eBay to get a good price for this, but you know, it's one that's well worth looking at, and you know, everybody loves Mario platformers. You can't go wrong with these, really. Next up is a more unique game, and you may have seen my review of this before. It's A Boy and His Blob. I believe this is part of a series, original game being on the NES, and this is just such a beautiful game graphically. Everything looks pristinely hand-drawn, almost like you're playing in a cartoon. The really cute little boy and his blob navigating through beautiful hand-drawn worlds. I mean, it just doesn't get better than this in terms of uniqueness and the aesthetic of the game. The premise is really cute. You're a little boy who finds an alien blob and you've got to help him back to his home world. And the fun and the sort of challenge of the game comes in that the blob has various different things that he can transform into. So you throw seeds down and he'll eat the seeds and turn into the thing you want him to be, whether that's an anvil or whether it's a parachute or whether it's a ladder. And that's the kind of dynamic of the game, the complexity. I'd say this is kind of a puzzle platformer. You can die pretty easily if you touch any of the enemies or fall into the water. So you've got to really think about the correct path forwards and think about how you're going to use Blob and his skills to help you progress. It's very challenging, and the really fun thing about this is if you collect the treasures in each level, you can open up bonus worlds, and those bonus worlds have really fun challenges in them, like, you know, say a parachute challenge level, or a level where you can only use one of the powers that the Blob has available to him. And, you know, for the completionists out there, that's really fun because it's going to make you want to keep playing and practicing those and getting a little bit further. I think that this is one that I would strongly recommend just because of the unique style to it and how beautifully characterised it is. The boy is really cute, he can shout to his blob and call him across. There are very cool boss fights in which you're going to have to scratch your head and think about how best to defeat it. And the worlds are just, they really are captivating and beautiful, you know, different forest environments, water environments, cave environments, and it's just a beautiful game. You know, if you've played it or if you watch a video of it, you'll know exactly what I'm getting at. And the Wii really does have some very beautiful hand-drawn games. I guess people may have felt that there were graphical limitations to the Wii, and so they adopted that hand-drawn approach. And, you know, to me, it's one of my favourite art styles, and this is just a superb game that you've got to check out. Okay, well, coming on to the last game then. It's Super Paper Mario. This is a very old game and one that I'd wanted for ages and I only picked up recently. I've left it to last because I've got mixed feelings about this game. Again, it's one that looks beautiful. It's all a beautiful kind of two-dimensional platform world, and as you'd expect from Nintendo first-party games, you know, it is high quality. The problem that I have with this game is that it's a bit too cutesy and a bit too on the kids' end of the spectrum. I was expecting it to be as difficult as a Mario platformer, you know, standard one, maybe like New Super Mario Bros. But sadly it's just not. It feels all a bit slow-paced, there's too much dialogue, there's lots of cutscenes, and there just isn't enough challenge in it. It just seems a bit... it's not got the right balance for me. I mean, it is a good quality game, it's beautiful looking, it's colourful, and it's got some interesting mechanics in it because you can shift between the 2D and 3D worlds at areas, and that's a way to sort of solve puzzles and get past obstacles. And it also has RPG elements. So when you kill enemies you get points and you can use those to level up and stuff, which is, you know, fantastic. It's just that the overall feeling of the game is a bit too slow moving, a little bit obtuse in places, and just not difficult enough in terms of the challenge. It just doesn't feel to me like a proper Mario game. You know, it sits nicely in my collection, and some of you guys may get a kick out of it, but for me it just wasn't what I was looking for and isn't quite right. It's not as good as any of the other games that I've mentioned. So there we have it. That's my collection of first-party 2D, with the exception of Paper Mario in some ways, 2D platformers on the system. And if you guys haven't got any of those games, you may want to go and check them out and see if you can find them, because they're really good and they're one of the reasons why I love the Wii so much. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.